and being in the education system for
It's been, it's been good. I can't complain. Life has been good.
Wonderful. Okay. That just had a bit of. Okay. I obviously know that some of us have had what we would call lockdown or being at home, but it hasn't been like that for yourself. What has it been for you it's now over a year, and we're now 3 months into a new year. What has it been for you in the last year, if I should say, Anne?
It has been almost a year since schools, around this time last year, the government hadn't made up their mind whether they're going to close schools or not. And it was like, we'll wait and see what's going to happen. We'll wait and see what other countries are doing. So by the time we got to the 22nd of March and the 23rd, because by the 25th of March, it was just for vulnerable children. By the time we got to that stage, I think every parent was very concerned. And by that time also, they did not send their children in. So quite a lot of children were actually not in school. And because parents then started blaming us to say we're keeping their children in school. Okay. So we had to smooth a lot of things with them to enable them to understand that we haven't been instructed for them not to come into school, for the children not to come into school. So we will need to just continue. Then, because we knew that school was going to close, inadvertently, we started preparing for children to work remotely. So by the time it came to the 25th of March last year, because we closed school on the 22nd, so the 25th was the Monday. By the time it came to that point, we'd already introduced the children to Google Classroom, because that's what we use. It's Microsoft Teams. Some of the schools use other platforms, but we use Google. So by the time it got to that point, we'd already given the children their passwords. We've already introduced them to how they can actually access Google Classrooms, how they can access the work that we're setting for them in Google Classroom. So it's been like a journey. At that point, for us and for many others, it would have been and we're just sort of muddling our way through. And some people during that time got it right. Some people, didn't get it quite right. And I think the good thing is that we're all at the same starting point. So we were able to sort of feed off each other, or the head teachers, so that we know what's going on. So it's been kind of like a roller coaster since then. However, the second lockdown, if you want me to go to that now, right? So since March, we haven't really had a break. We had some sort of a break in the summer term, but that wasn't obviously a break that's sort of we rested on our laurels, because we needed to ensure that come September, the children are coming into school safely, because by that point, we did have children in school. We had the key worker children, and we also had the children who we thought were vulnerable and needed to be in school. If they were not in school, then sometimes it involved safeguarding issues. Sometimes it involved the fact that they were not good learners whilst they were at home. So we never actually stopped going into school.
Wow.
So yes, so it's been we haven't really had a break, and we needed to continue and to also return attendance figures to the DFE. So every day, that was a daily chore. I called it a chore because initially I was like, uh-oh, we've got to get this right. So I was really doing it myself. But the second lockdown, my business manager was doing it then. But then, because I think sometimes I can be really hard on myself, and I just want it to be right. So because the forms were really tricky to actually fill in the attendance, I was doing that we were going to get the right attendance going back to the DFE. For us, we did not have that many children coming to school, because we were supposed to have the vulnerable children, these children include the special educational needs children.
Mm-hmm.
Not every special educational needs child's parent wanted them in school.
Right.
And yes, so at that point, because of the population, my school population was mainly I've got about almost 30% just Indian children in my school.
Okay.
And you, as you know, what happened around that time, they were saying that the Black and Asian people were more liable to catch COVID, and that really scared them away. So it took a lot of confidence, for parents, for us to build confidence with the parents, for them to send their children into school, especially the ones that we needed in school. And at that point, last March, if I can go back to last March, we did not know what was going to happen for all the tests. We did not know what was going to happen for the children's learning. We did not have anything like catch up, like the catch up money that they were saying that we would have. We did not have any of that. So it was like us just trying to muddle through whilst we got little guidance. Because in most cases, the guidance was very, very, very confusing at times. And it was for us to decipher which one was relevant to us and which wasn't. And so the remote learning became something that we grew into. And at that point, we had the teachers coming into school on a rota system, coming into school to work with the children, because at that point we did not, sort of mirror what was happening at home and in school. We were actually providing the proper timetable for children in school then, and also catering for the children at home. Wow. And that was very, very tedious for the teachers. And knowing me with my school inspector hat on, I needed to get it right. And it was quite sort of challenging at times. Wow. But then having, that relationship, looking at little things like the staff well-being, and giving them that sort of opportunity for them to be able to be. I had to be as flexible as I could, so I would get the best out of them. So things changed, rapidly, but then it needed to change as things were evolving. Wow. And then obviously it evolved to the point where we had to have some teachers in school and some teachers working from home. Right. And I feel blessed, with the team I have, because they were so willing. Right. And even through that, if I can add, my faith was really strong around that time, because it was important that, going into school every day,
Yeah.
I was putting myself at risk, and I was appreciating the fact that my teachers were also putting themselves at risk.
Yeah.
Things were not as known as they are now. So it was like prayer that really was taking us through, and being insistent on people following a risk assessment, which I had developed
Right.
to ensure, that my staff, every single person coming into the school then, was safe. So it was important that we had the 2 meters social distancing going on.
Wow.
Then also we needed the masks as well. But at that point, we were discouraged not to wear masks
In
while
school.
we were
Yeah.
children. And I feel that it was just really prayer that really took us through. Just that, me going around the school every day.
Wow.
People were thinking, what's she doing?
Wow.
I would go around the school praying every single day. As soon as I come out of my car, and I'm praying, I'm just praying around the school.
Praise
God, please let not this happen to here. Let it go away. Just covered it with the blood of Jesus. But then it was, because eventually I realized that I wasn't the only one that was a Christian there that was praying. Then, because I think there were a couple of other teachers in there that said to because when you say I'm praying and people just look at you like, what you're saying. And when talking, I never shy away from saying anything about my faith. I'm not trying to convert anyone. I'm just trying to
talk
because
about it.
I have to talk about what I believe in. And that really helped. So to be honest, we did not have a single case right the way through all the time that from March right the way to July, not a single staff member or a child had COVID.
Wow.
So we had 2 cases that parents, were tested and they were positive, but it was just coincidental that those parents were split up. So it was like the child went to the dad's house and the dad tested positive, but then when the child took the test, it was positive. So I strongly believe, my prayers and my colleagues' prayers were really helpful. And apart from that, also because I was very adamant that you're going to keep those 2 meters in social distancing. You're not going to be chatting. I made different stations for people, so we don't have I would stipulate how many people were meant to be in the staff room area, in the kitchen area. I sort of got one of my cleaners to make another station. So I increased the coffee stations in the school so that people would to spread out. And then because it was around summer, then I was able to use the outdoors well. So I called it another station. So I sort of said, these are the stations that you're going to be in. And my staff meetings transferred to outdoors. So I did as much, and I had a very receptive staff. So that's why I say I feel blessed with the team I have. That I'm with. So we went through all of that, trying to. The main thing there, stop me if you want to ask any other questions.
I have a few, but go ahead. We're listening.
Like the main.
This is because you're giving us real life experience as to what's happened, and many times people don't know what it really involves. With your job. And just before you go ahead, I know many parents during this time really appreciated the work that teachers do. I saw some funny videos on social media, but it really reflects on the work that your time and everything that you do for our children. So on behalf of people that are watching right now, people that are watching through Facebook, on behalf of parents, I want to say thank you, for the work that you've done. It's been an amazing journey, and sometimes we have underestimated the work that teachers have done for our children. So I'm just going to use the opportunity to say thank you, just in case
Thank
somebody
you.
would like to extend that appreciation. But go ahead, yes.
Thank you. So as I was saying, at that point, obviously, we needed to keep in mind that children had to continue learning.
Yeah.
The challenge for us was to actually how to engage children whilst they were at home, and also to engage children who couldn't afford to have the gadgets that they needed online. And in doing so, we had to actually, the children, some parents were really, it was that COVID fear, and we needed to breach something. So what we did was, if we invited a child in that didn't have the gadget and they couldn't come in, you wouldn't believe it. I have a family support worker, and I also have my deputy head teacher, who's the DSL, the designated safeguarding lead. And I have a team of people who want these children to learn. They would do home visits. They wouldn't go into the houses, because obviously you couldn't go into the houses.
Yeah.
But they would do doorstep visits.
Okay.
And they would we would photocopy work for the children, and they would take this work to the children.
Homes. Wow.
Yes, to their homes. And we also used to do parcels for them, food parcels for them, for the people who couldn't afford it. And I remember, some children coming in to school without breakfast or anything like that. That's sometimes a common occurrence anyway. And my family support worker would say, "Can I just go and pick so and so, because it may be that the baby is not doing so and so mommy can't come in." So that's how dedicated, and I'm sure I'm not the only school that's doing that. So that's how dedicated teachers are, because they've got the children at heart. They want them to succeed.
Yeah.
So we then started what we called an engagement tool, where we needed to find out who was engaged in their learning, how much they were doing, because we could actually see what they're doing through Google Classroom.
Okay.
So that was the easy bit for us. If the child had the laptop or the iPad or whatever they needed to get access to Google Classroom, that was the easy bit for us, because we can actually monitor that. The ones that we're really finding very challenging to get engagement from were the ones that didn't have the gadget. And so what used to happen when we get them these the worksheets that they needed to do their learning, which mirrored what we were doing in the Google Classroom, we needed to bring them back for us to assess what they'd done. So it was like, "Oh, can you drop it off?" And they're, "Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. Oh, the babies are..." So we would go and pick them up, pick the paper, the ones that they'd finished and completed, and then would drop off another set for them. So that's how we actually got those children engaged. We did not win all of them. It was quite difficult. I wouldn't say that it was easy for us to win all of them, but we tried our hardest. And then we have I have got someone called a school counselor, who also was also trying to work with the parents as well as the children's mental health.
Right, because that was an issue there. That was definitely highlighted. I mean, I remember even, I don't know if that's the first time that we've had it, but I was aware of like a mental health awareness week that was done for the schools. Is that the first time that it was done for young people?
No.
Okay.
No, we had that before, because we've got mental health first aiders. Because what was happening before COVID was that there was an increased case of mental health issues amongst children.
Okay.
So every school, the government asked every school to have a mental health first aider.
First aider, okay.
Right. So you're able to work with those children, have like different programs that you're doing that would help these children's emotional health and mental health, and the school counselor and the family support worker did a very good job of that. Then I got 4 people trained as mental health first aiders, and they formed a team, and they would look into the activities that would help children with their mental health.
Wow.
So we started doing that before COVID, and then it became sort of increased in COVID time.
Mm-hmm.
If I could say that we were well set up for that, because we were able to do that before COVID. We were well set up for that, and I'm sure the schools were as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was looking really at how those children were making progress. It was very difficult to say, to compare progress, which is why eventually they had to say the SATs tests and the exams were not going to go ahead, because if children are at home and some are disadvantaged because they haven't got the right gadgets, it wouldn't be.
Okay, so to be fair.
Yes, so they had to say it's not going ahead. And this time around, it's not going ahead because in September there was a lot of school closure. We had a lot of school closure, and that disadvantages people. If you close the school, there's a disadvantaged children will not have access as much as people who are well off and well to do. And they wouldn't be able to access the education. So I think the education, that's basically one of the main reasons why the exams were cancelled. And then obviously we went through right up till July. Then we decided that we were going to bring in. Then the government said that the year 6 children were going to go back, and we didn't get that many of them back. So what we decided, because they'd already cancelled the SATs, and we thought to us, we need to think about year 5. So I went to the governors and the trustees, board of trustees, and I said, okay, year 6, they're in, but I would like to increase it so year 5 can come in. It was like, have you done a risk assessment for that? I said, yes, so I have, which is why I'm coming to you. But I'm thinking about the children, because that cohort was a cohort that we needed to keep an eye on, and it was important that we had those children in school, as many of them as we could. So we needed to readjust our action plan, our risk assessment, to be able to accommodate those children. And we needed to sort of, I can say, sell that to the parents so that they understand how safe our school has been. Because up to then, we didn't have a single case. So we had a ground to stand on. Like, it is safe here. This is a safe place to be. Your child is safe here. And all the things that we've put in place are working for us.
Wow.
So we finished the last year's school year, and then in that safe way, but then coupled up with what happened in my school, we started a refurbishment program, which had been pending since 2014, and I'd fought right the way through. I got there in 2018, and I'd tried, and they started, the studies, the CHEM meetings, the client engagement meetings, the following year, and I didn't know COVID was coming. Obviously, I just thought, I just want this school to look better than it is now. So coupled up with the building project, which is why I didn't have much of a summer last summer, because to ensure that what we decided in the client engagement meetings was I was going to get in September when the children come back to school. Because the government had already said that the children were coming back to school in September. All children were expected to be in school in September. And I need a functioning school if they were going to be working on certain areas of the school. So I needed to make sure that the temporary buildings were there already for the children for September. So some head teachers may have had a break, I don't know, but I couldn't. And my senior leaders didn't leave me at all. They were with me. So there was even one that was shielding, that came off shielding because there was one day I had to go into school because they'd got in the temporary building and they hadn't put it where I asked them to put it.
Oh dear.
So, taking up some of my playground, and I needed to think, I have a school of 365 children. How am I going to get all these children to play in a small patch of playground? Anyway, putting that aside, we crossed that bridge in September, and we opened up in September very safely. And I was even doing a video. If you go onto my website, my school website, you will see me still on that video, showing the children how they can come into school, what 2 meters looks like. And because some parents were saying they're going to send their children in with masks, and I didn't stop them from doing that. So the only thing is I tried to get them to know how to take their masks off safely. I think with my nursing background, because I had many months as a nurse, with my nursing,
all that has helped, right, in this time of COVID. Okay,
that has really helped, because I even taught my teachers how to take their masks off and their gloves off safely. Wow. So they were like, oh wow, it all of that just came. It's like, I don't know. I thought I'd forgotten all of those things, but
it became very useful
into that kind of mode.
Yeah.
I've got to keep these people safe. That was what was on my mind.
Yeah.
Keep these people safe. And, for me to do that, I needed to bring back and refresh all my nursing to say, why you're doing 2 meters social.
Do you know what? Just saying that, just if I just start with it, I know actually somebody, you just reminding me of somebody who's very close to me as well, who has come from a nursing background and has gone into teaching, which is the same thing that's happened. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to go into that to say, are you able to cross skills, or is there any particular reason? But let's move on. Yes, you were able to use that skill to apply it in this time of COVID that you never saw coming. None of us did, by the way.
Yeah. So no, that was quite a while.
That was quite handy.
It was very handy, and it kicked in so quickly. It was very interesting. And have notices where there's my office, then put markers as to how far 2 meters distance are, what it means, and did all that video and spoke to the children when they came in. And I changed to virtual assemblies as well.
Okay.
So Google allowed me to have an assembly with the whole school.
Wow.
And it was such a joy to see those children, because
was this from home, or were they when you were in the classes?
From school. Everyone was in the class.
Okay.
Come September, that's what happened, because everyone was in school, but still with social distancing. And then the teachers were not actually social distancing that much, because you had to keep 2 meters. And I said to them, if you're going to go anywhere near a child, you need a face mask, and some of them preferred a face shield. So they used a face shield or a face mask. And if you have sent children that need for you to be close to them, for them to understand you, it's quite difficult. So you need to protect yourself. So but I bought masks. I bought all sorts of things. I got a sink put on there, put out, so that the children can wash their hands before they come in. Hand sanitizers everywhere.
The only thing that I haven't heard you do is to put on your army combat uniform to say that you were just ready to fight off COVID. You will not come to this territory. I said no.
Every angle of it, every angle. And then I remember once, this is, anecdotal. I remember once, I heard that the school in the same trust as me, they'd had one case there, and that had spread for them to close a bubble. And I was like so tormented. I started praying, and then I went and gathered these. It was lunchtime. I went into the classrooms of these 2 teachers that I know are Christian, praying Christians like me. And we were there praying. We're all praying and praying. I said, look, I've just heard that there's the next door has got a case. We need to block it.
Hey, come on now.
It was like we were just prayer warriors there. So we prayed and prayed, and it never got to us. So, there is a living God. So
Amen.
everything else, you need to have that faith.
Yes.
And so in September, all the children returned. And I was like very, very, optimistic, thinking, okay, will they return? Because the Black and Asian was still, that thing was like, we were the ones that the COVID was targeting. And we had, we had these families that were Asian families. And to convince them to come in, it's like, Mrs. Pratt, have you done this? Have you done that? And I needed to have patience. And my senior leaders that are working with me, I just doff my heart to them. They're really, really with me. We really share a vision, my vision. And it's so rewarding that we are all on the same page.
Yeah.
My working life, I know I shouldn't really be saying this, but my husband was like, when do you stop working? But the working pattern had to change, and theirs changed too. I wasn't asking them to work as late as I was, but I was on Google, because when you're on Google working, you would see who else is there. I would be working there, and I would just see them pop up. And I was like, what are you doing here? And they'll say to me, what are you doing here? Yeah, but it was interesting that I had the people share my passion, and we've fought really hard for those children.
Yeah. I mean, that statement, I think that's an understatement you just made. We fought really hard, because listening to everything that you've had to do over the past year, you actually, it's like you rolled up your sleeve.
Yeah,
this is it. We have to combat this thing. Whatever we need to do, we are going to do it. Whatever measures we need to put in place, we are going to, we're going to put it. Whatever I need to buy, I'm going to buy. You need to wash your hands 10 times, you wash your hands 10 times. COVID is not coming to this territory, and it's really an amazing, story to hear this. And thank God for the success rate. And it's not just because you did that physically, you also applied your faith into action. I mean, there's anything that I believe that has helped, everyone in this time, is prayers. I'll tell you a very interesting thing that happened. I went to the shops one day, and I just felt led. I said, I was walking, and I met the security man. I said, can I pray with you? The man said, yes. We stopped right in the middle of the shop. I prayed with him. I didn't make a scene out of him. I prayed with him, and he was fine. I stopped somebody and said, can I pray with you? And I said, yes. I mean, I'm just saying that in this time, people did not reject prayers, because everybody knew that apart from the physical measures that were put in place, there needed to be some kind of divine intervention, because, it was in a state of chaos. Nobody had an answer. I'm sure if Christians showed up at Parliament during that time, they want to pray. They will say, yes, please come in and let's pray, while we're doing our things. But we really, I said earlier, and I'm saying it again, we really thank you on behalf of, the parents, the parents of your school, but also the parents, because many parents came to really appreciate teachers, not just for the COVID time, but even the work that you were doing even before this experience happened. And while you were speaking, Anne, I know that I think it was every Thursday, people were clapping for NHS. I think people needed to even clap and applaud the teachers, the education system, listening to what you're doing. I think parents should go to the schools and really clap. We can't invade the schools now, by the way, because of COVID, but there must be something that needs to be done to really appreciate, the work, because you kept their children in school.
Yeah.
Especially the frontline workers, you kept the children in school, you kept the vulnerable children in school, you did not close. It was an ongoing process. And thank God for your resilience. Thank God for, your strength and your being audacious in this time that it's not happening. It's not happening. I'm really grateful to the Lord for that, and also for your efforts. But how were you able to maintain, we talked about the children being affected with mental health. Were there cases like that? Did this also affect the teachers? Were their mental health being affected during this period of time as well?
Well, I would say their well-being.
Okay, well-being.
So,
Okay.
so what we did as a school was to get a well-being team going.
Okay.
So whenever we sort of had any issues, so we started with a survey. So sent a survey with questions about mainly about their well-being,
Okay.
about what they wanted to see and what they wanted to do, really, and what would work for them and the children. So it got sort of gave us an insight. What would enable them to balance their work and their life out of school, and that gave us an insight. So I sort of distanced myself from the well-being team meetings, because I needed to be that person that they would come to say, this is what's going on, what are we going to do? And the well-being team that we had that looked into the well-being of the staff, they were quite solid, and you know, it was, I said, every work, you know, every level in the school should be represented in this team. So we had from the office, from the lunch midday meal supervisors, from the teaching staff, from the support staff, from the senior leaders. So the whole range was represented there. So everyone had their say. And then they decided that we were going to have like feel good. They called it Feel Good Wednesday. So like Wednesdays, every year group will take turns in bringing things that we call sinful things, or like sweets and things that, you know, people don't usually have. But then they would, you know, they would put it in the staff room, and people would help themselves to it. And then sometimes I would just, you know, get pizza for them, because I see they sometimes work so late, and I'm thinking I need to get something. So I would just get pizza for them. So eventually, when I was talking to my board of governors, the chair of governors, and I said, "Oh, I had to buy pizza for them." He said, "Anne, why are you using your money? Why don't you, we'll try and help you do that." So that became a feature in the board of trustees meeting now, so that staff well-being, so they get them what they want. So yes, it featured in the budget for this year. Well-being, because the last
was that an initiative that you introduced?
Yes, because I remember one of my senior leaders, my assistant head teacher, said to me, someone says they want to come and work at Park Hill because they've heard about what I'm doing at Park Hill for the staff well-being.
Feel Good Wednesday, I like that. Praise shows on Wednesday. Feel Good Wednesday.
Yeah, and then the other thing I did was to get them like one day, a half term, work from home. But the work from home means that you have a choice of what you want to do. Someone will take your class, someone will do other things that you're meant to be doing with the children. But then I would say to them, just put your feet up, please. Just don't worry about it. Don't worry about us in school. You can work from home. And then, I would say to them, this is not really official. I'd just say, if you do watch TV or whatever program you watch, you just put your feet up and watch TV. So then I started doing that for them. And the teachers would have half a day. My senior leaders would have a day, because they were with me 24/7, if I can tell you that. Because I would wake up, and that, because I wake up early in the morning, I would wake up and I'll finish sending my prayers, and I'll be on the phone, and they'll be replying to me. So that's how devoted they are.
So
as
it's,
well.
it's almost like, the Cobra meeting that the MPs have. It wasn't for them. It was like the schools needed to have a Cobra meeting every day. This is the update. What's happening?
Yes.
What are we putting in place? You know,
Yes.
how, you know, have you heard anything about this family? Is that family okay?
Oh, yes,
Who's
we have
calling
that.
who? Who's checking who? Who, you know, how are these people coming? They're coming from that. My God, well done, well done. It's a whole system. I mean, this is just really giving us insight into how things are run, because many a times, you know, when as parents, you know, to apologize for our ignorance sometimes. You don't just get there, just leave the children at the gate. Ah, I see you later. You know, you show up at 5:30. Where's my son? Where's my daughter? Where's my son? Oh, wow, thank you, bye. You know, and that's about it. You know, until there's a complaint, and then you show up. Why is this happening to my child? You know, and really not having insight into how the whole system is run. You know, and hearing this, I believe that it would help us to understand, help us to appreciate, help us to ask a bit more questions. You know, this is for parents. If you're there, ask questions. You know, I always have an interest in this, which is why we're having this conversation today, to give people, you know, a bit of insight, and also to bring some rest. I know it's, you know, we're talking about somebody in charge of a school, one school, but we're using 1 in a million. But at least, if you're here in the United Kingdom, you'll know that things are not just, should not be done haphazardly, and things will not just be done like that. You know, there is a system in place. And so if for the government, well, not just the government, for the schools to agree with the children to go back to school, there are different measures that would have had to put in place. Because of time, I mean, we've had so much of what has happened before. We've come to a place now that schools are going to have reopened, and it's done in tiers, but you know, certain measures have been put into place. What would you say to parents now that children are going back to school after COVID?
I think it's the best thing for the children. I know, you know, some people, you know, may differ. I don't know, but within myself, I feel, you know, I woke up on Friday and I felt very elated that the children are actually going to be in school on Monday by God's grace. So it was, you know, it's sending letters home. As soon as we heard that that the children are going back, the first thing I needed to do was to reassure parents that your children are still going to be safe with us. So what parents should expect is that it would be very similar to what we were doing in September. You know, by way of risk assessment, and by way of, you know, still sitting and facing the front, every child sitting and facing the front. By also, you know, that interaction is still not going to be there. It's still going to be 2 meters, you know, away from adults as much as possible. But for the younger children, it's quite difficult, which is why we have to have visors and face masks. The slight difference would be that teachers are going to be doing 2 tests. So we have to remember, you know, that teachers are going to be doing 2 home tests. We've been doing it since a couple of months ago. We've been doing that.
2 home tests. Is that the COVID test you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So teachers, before any person steps foot in my school, they've got to be doing a test if you're doing a test on a Monday, your next day will be a Thursday.
Okay.
So you do a test because we want to get, as the government wants to, asymptomatic cases. So people don't have COVID, but they don't show any symptoms, and they're the ones that are super spreaders. So you need to make sure that every person that's coming into your school or your institution is COVID free. So even the builders that were in my school that were interacting with us as a staff, not the ones that were painting, they needed to do those tests as well. So when I got the tests, they were tested. The catering staff were tested. Any regular visits going to the school were tested. So we're going to be doing that as teachers. But then the children would see that we're wearing masks much more than we were before, because there are lots of variants now and we're not sure. So we need to wear masks in communal areas. And if teachers feel that they need to, I'm not, you know, stopping anyone from wearing masks in classrooms. So you have a choice of wearing a face shield. So the children will see that we're wearing face shields or masks in classrooms because the face shields, you'll see the expression. And the difference would be, another difference would be that we can now have year group assemblies. So it'll be the same as working in bubbles. We're still going to be in year group bubbles. So that's what parents would expect as well. And another thing they would expect also is the fact that we're going to be doing diagnostic tests for the children, because we need to, not many schools possibly will not do it, I don't know, but you know, I'm a school inspector and I need to catch up with what's going on as well with children's learning all the time. So we'll be doing diagnostic tests. So we're on where the catch-up is needed. So the catch-up, some children will need to be caught up more than other children, you know. So
Okay. Can you explain the diagnostic tests to me?
So the assessments, I'm calling them, they're called diagnostic. It's a concept used by Alex Quigley. It's a research done by Alex Quigley. That diagnostic tests are better than you putting the child and saying the whole class to test them. So diagnostic tests are more individual.
Okay.
So once they go back into school, we have something called a recovery curriculum, where we're going to settle them back into their learning. So while settling them back into their learning, we're not going to ditch the maths and English. So we'll be looking for the gaps in there. So we'll be looking for individual gaps in children. Once you've actually identified those individual gaps, then you'll be able to group them into twos or more than two.
Okay, so this has got to do with their learning, not the COVID. Okay, so this has got to do with assessing them when they're coming back.
It's important that when they come back, we focus on their learning, because we have lost so much learning time.
Yeah.
You know, there's obviously, you know, parents are doing a brilliant job, but obviously they're not professional teachers. And to get them into the point at that state where we know where the gaps are for their learning. All right. So that's like having a diagnosis of what, you know, where the gaps are. You know.
Okay, so I like that. I like the what you just mentioned. But what about the schools that are not doing that? Can a parent, having heard what you just said and liking that idea, can they make a reference to say, I heard about this? Is it something that the school would like to, or is there something that the school can look into so that it can also be applied, or is it something that can be applied across the board? Or is it an individual? Yeah.
No, it should be applied in every school, because there was something called a catch-up strategy that every school should have. So every school should have put on their website what their catch-up plan is for the children that have been left behind with their learning.
Right.
So if you go into your children's school, the school website, you should see a catch-up strategy. You should see a pupil premium strategy. You should see a catch-up strategy, the COVID catch-up strategy, because every school has been given money to make sure that children catch up in their learning, especially the disadvantaged children. But if you have children that you feel are still lagging behind, you can actually group them into that. So that, because what we did in September was we used one-to-one tutors, and there's a national tutoring program which the government is actually sponsoring, so that schools can actually pay some bits towards they don't pay the full price for the tutors, they pay some money towards that. So it's important that you find out what, you know, where your child is, obviously, you know, in their learning, and also, you know, if there's a catch-up program, they need that. Well, how are they going to go about, you know, for this catch-up program for your child, if you feel your child, you know, needs that? The school may well and good tell you that, you know, your child needs to be working with so and so for this week and that week. So there should be a program, a plan for those children.
Okay. Thank you for that. So, I mean, those of us that are parents, you're a parent as well, by the way, but you know, just in case you're not aware of what should be happening, you know, is there a website that people can go to, or that they can get that guidance as to the different expectations that parents can have or should have after the children go back to school, or
I think that
it's
you,
just asking the
yes,
school?
ask the school and then check their website.
Okay.
Because you're supposed to display your curriculum. If we're calling it a recovery curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
When the children go back, you need to gauge their mental well-being, their learning, how they're learning to learn, with what all of that going on. So we've got something called the zones of regulation that we use for children to actually tell us how they're feeling about their learning, about themselves, because you need to attack the mental state before you actually get they get to learning. So I think the school may probably, your children's school may probably be doing a recovery curriculum, a recovery program when they go back, just to get them back into the learning habits. So that would be very beneficial because we're doing that as well.
Wonderful, thank you. It's good to know that proper assessment would be made for every child so that they can be, placed in the right group. But not just that, I believe that is also a measure to help them to also catch up, like you mentioned about a catch up, to get them to where they should be in their education, right?
Well, it's going to be difficult to get them there, but then they will be able to plug in the gaps as much as they could.
As much as they could, okay. Yeah. And support would be given for that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you've spoken to the parents about what they should expect. I believe that every school would have obviously put a lot of measures in place. You've mentioned two tests. Now, these tests, this COVID test that would be given to children, are you saying that every child would have to be, how regular would the children be tested at schools?
Well, that would be the secondary schools, because we don't do tests for the primary school. I think the government is planning to send home kits to primary school parents. Well, that I think is a little bit down the line. But initially the secondary schools would we need to have, like my son's school, they've done the first test. So it's going to do the next test tomorrow. And then a third test, and then they would also, that would be like helping them to learn how to test for themselves, so that they're able to do it themselves. So they're being monitored now to do their tests, and then they will be able to do the test themselves. So they test for COVID using the home kits, the 30 minutes ones. So they're the ones that we're using as staff as well.
Okay. How regular would they need to? Is this an ongoing thing, or is it just to get them back into school?
Well, initially to get them back into school. Apparently, we got till Easter for the mask and all these things to happen, and then the government are going to look into what's happened in the 3 weeks that we're going to be in school, to see where we're going from there. So then they will be able to give us guidance as to where we're going, whether we're going to continue with the mask, continue with that, depending on, as we always say, depending on the data that we get.
Okay. Now you and I know we pray, and you and I know that we are trusting the Lord that there will not be a reversal, but there will be progress from here. But in the case of any kind of emergency, God forbid, is there anything in the foreseeable future that would say that the schools might have to shut down for the rest of this academic year?
I don't believe so, because I think they've put a lot of things in place as to how you safeguard yourself and how you safeguard the children. I think the tests and the vaccinations have done a marvelous thing, because, with the vaccinations, the hospitalization has come right down. And also there is a degree of you protecting yourself, even with the vaccination. You're wearing your mask, you're doing the social distancing. The children are having these tests, so they're able to catch because children are the ones likely to be asymptomatic. So they're able to catch, as many asymptomatic cases as possible, so it doesn't spread as much as it was spreading before. So we're just trusting God that would work this time, because those children need to be in school. It's very important that children are in school for their mental health and also for their learning needs.
Thank you so much, Anne. And to any young person that is watching us today, what do you have to say to them? You've spoken to the parents.
I would say just keep your head down, make sure you do your learning, and just ensure that your relationships are very, very solid and you keep safe. You need to keep safe at all times and to ensure that you listen to your teachers and to do as much learning as you can.
Thank you so much, Anne. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. I am hoping to do this again because you have really given us insight into what's happening, what has happened, and what is happening as with regards to the plans. I want to wish you all the very best. We'll keep praying for you all, keep trusting the Lord for you all, keep trusting the Lord for our children, and we'll keep on appreciating every single one in the education system. It's not just about learning, it's about safeguarding our children, it's about looking after their well-being, you know, it's about feeding them. You mentioned children who will go to school without food, looking after, ensuring that they have whatever they need, you know, at this point in time in their lives. So I want to say thank you. Thank you once again. Thanks to the education system, you know, and I wish you all the best for this season going forward as the lockdown has been lifted. Until I come back here, we thank you very much. God bless you. Please, you know, a lot has been done. We want to appreciate the system. Our children are going back to school. Keep them in your prayers. We're all going to keep on praying and trusting that the Lord will continue to keep us all. That's all I've got time for this week. Stay blessed. Stay on top. See you soon.